three, good! Murray down the court. Oh, McCollum with a block. C.J. McCollum with a spectacular defensive play.
There's Lillard again from the logo. You cannot stop Damian Lillard right now.
Last night it was the NBA suspending its season after Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz tested positive for the coronavirus.
This hiatus will be at least 30 days.
The NBA Board of Governors has approved a 22-team restart in Orlando, Florida at Disney World.
Our league is made up of so many African-American players, and a lot of our hearts are with our people. And that's where the struggle is. I think that's where you're hearing a lot of guys kind of coming out saying, maybe we should be focused on that instead of worrying about, going back and jumping into the season. The Black community has had enough.
Welcome into the Hang Time Podcast. I'm your host, Sekou Smith here in Atlanta. We are climbing the ladder all the way to Orlando for the NBA restart. 22 teams, 22 days. We're going over details on each and every one of them. Today, we're talking the Portland Trail Blazers with the king of the podcast, the superstar, Mr. NBA champion, the pride of Phoenix himself, Channing Frye, doing this here on the Hang Time Podcast. Listen, I feel like I should be on your podcast. Obi, what you doing here?
Listen, you can show up anytime you want. We're going to do the same thing. Talk about some what else.
No doubt. Man, listen, I know everybody is going wild, anticipating what we're going to see in the bubble and what is an unprecedented environment for all of these teams. There was so much talk, from Portland leading up to this point about them not wanting to play certain formats, or maybe they were ambivalent about even participating. Now the opportunity's here. What is the motivation, beyond just getting into the playoffs and having that spot that you think this Portland team has going into the action in the bubble?
I think the biggest thing is Damian Lillard. He's the best guard right now in the NBA with Steph not there.
Yeah.
I think right now, anytime you look at his past history when it comes to the playoffs, he shows up. You have a chance to win every single time he's out there. He's rested. Nurk is healthy. Zach Collins is healthy. When you have a duo like McCollum and Damian Lillard, you want to put them in high-pressure situations. Number one, you know what they've done before, and you want to give them an opportunity to show that they've gotten better. One big thing to me was Trevor Ariza. I felt like that was a huge blow for them, just defensively. I felt like his length, his leadership, his veteranship, he's been in big games. He's made big plays defensively and offensively. But looking at Melo, I don't know if he went vegan. I don't know if he had Peloton, but skinny Melo is very, very, very dangerous. It shows that he's taking this seriously. It shows that, for him, we kind of laugh saying, oh, he may have to play the three. But if he's already preparing his body like that, now you're saying, he might have a little bit more bounce. He might be a little bit quicker. He might be able to play, instead of 20 minutes at the 3, 24. And you split him and Zach Collins and some of the other guys off the bench at the 3, they are very, very offensively dangerous team.
Yeah. They're 3.5 games back, obviously trying to get that playoff spot. Do you think Nurkic and Collins, without the benefit of having played all these months, not just the pandemic months, but even before that, obviously, how much can you lean on them physically, knowing what they're coming off of in terms of how fresh they might be, but then how quickly they might fatigue?
Here's the best case scenario. You say, hey, I'm just going to play you 24 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to split minutes. Like minimum, you're going to get 24 minutes. So a 6-minute stint, it doesn't matter if you take a year, 2 years off. I've seen them. I've seen Zach Collins in his practice. I've seen Nurkic looking slim, and he's as big as a rhinoceros. So it could have gone very bad.
Right.
But you split time between Nurkic and Hassan Whiteside. I don't know a more physical 1-2 punch. Right? And you say, hey, this game we want to post up a little bit more. We're going to go with Nurk starting. But this game, hey, Hassan, we're going to start you. And then because we want Nurk to, because defensively, Hassan is a lot better, where Nurk is a lot better offensively. You can mix and match those guys. And so they're going to have the opportunity to be put in their best situation each game. And I think Zach, you look at him, and there's been so much talk about what he can do. This is a perfect clean slate situation. go out there and play the 3, play the 4. He'll play the 4 offensively, but he'll play the 3 defensively. And again, that's another 6'9", 6'10" guy that's going to put a body on, who we're talking about, LeBron, Paul George, Kawhi. You just need to throw bodies at them.
That Western Conference Finals redux, that kind of feeling that you have when you get there last season, like the Trailblazers did. Fell down, obviously, against the Warriors, didn't play their best, seemed kind of worn out.
Right.
But that confidence you get from making it there the year before, how much of that do you think is available for them to kind of use as they get into this chase? Because, they're one of the few teams that has this carrot hanging out. First, you got to make up this ground and get into the playoffs. And then if you do, it's an entirely new game for you. But just the motivation laying there and knowing what you did last year.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think you look at that team last year that lost. They really didn't get a lot of production from Al-Farouq Aminu, from Mo Harkless, from their bench. Really, I think it was just Dame and CJ that scored most of those points. But now you have another year underneath your belt. Big Nurk is healthy. You have Hassan Whiteside that is a great screen and roller and finisher around the rim with his little floaters and hooks. But I think one underlying motivating factor, if you say, okay, the Blazers are going to make the 8th spot, they would have had to play the Lakers, right? Which I think are going to be first. Rondo going down is huge.
Yeah.
Huge for the Lakers because playoff Rondo, and everyone says it, and I've seen it, is a absolute different beast. Playoff Rondo would have been trouble for Damian Lillard. I don't care anybody's agree or not. I'm telling you this, playoff Rondo would have been difficult for Damian Lillard or CJ, whichever one he's guarding. But now that he's not playing, that's a tough first-round matchup for the Los Angeles Lakers to go against a physical, battle-tested, team where, yes, LeBron is the best player on the court, and then AD. But then on the other side, the Lakers have no answer for CJ and Dame. So I'm taking my chances.
Yeah. Dame's such an interesting player in terms of this is a guy who has embraced staying in one place in ways that a lot of his all-star and superstar contemporaries have not. Do you think Dame looks at this as kind of redemption for the first part of this season when he was cooking before he got hurt? Just going nuts. And then he got hurt and didn't get a chance to get these guys back into that playoff position before the season shut down. So this is kind of a second chance for Dame just to kind of finish what he started this season.
For sure. I think this is a blessing in disguise. He was, I think, first or second in minutes in the league. He was absolutely cooking. I think people talk about MVP races and stuff like that, and obviously they weren't in the playoffs, but he should have been talked about as having one of the better seasons of his career, battling through injuries. I think he was averaging 40 for 2 weeks or something like that, or maybe a month. Yeah. He was carrying a very injured, battle, beat-up team in a super hard Western Conference. And figuring out what to do with Whiteside, figuring out what to do with Melo, is all these things that come into play. But I feel like them now, with this clean slate being there at Orlando, they have nothing to do but focus. And I think what is also a blessing is that the bench got a lot of experience. Gary Trent Jr. and the other guys that got a lot of minutes because so many guys are getting injured are now ready to kind of step into that role player role where it's like, hey, if I get 10 minutes, I know what to do with my 10 minutes. Now, if I get 20, I'm really going to be able to take advantage of that. But if I don't, I still know my role and what is going to help us win and be successful.
You mentioned Trent, and I think Anthony Simons is another one. When I was watching them throughout the course of this year, I was stunned at how much better they were from a year ago. It was shocking a little, just the comfort level that Trent looked like he had in terms of taking shots. Simons was playing and attacking the rim like you could tell he's been working out against Dame and CJ all this time. How important do you think those young guys might be in terms of just the muscle memory they got earlier this year paying off now?
Well, I think you look at Dame and CJ, right? And this is how we kind of break down the game. Dame and CJ are going to play 35-plus minutes, those two. You have to, right? At this point, there's nothing less to lose. If Simons gets in there and Gary Trent, which I felt like he really, really, really is going to help them, is on defense, right? He is a guy that is just going to guard whoever you ask, right? He's going to make an open shot. He's going to make the right play. He's not going to lose you the game, but if he makes a couple threes, if he gets a steal, if he gets a turnover, he's going to help you win those games. So that extra 12 to 15 minutes, you're going to need Simons to go off offensively and put pressure on the opposing team's bigs, use athleticism. I still think Simons, and everyone talks about him here in like this crazy light. He is an athletic freak, first of all, right? He is a perfect two-guard body. I think where he's going to help the team the best is when they could put him defensively, another body on another team, like Lou Williams, right? When Lou Williams comes in, we need you to put pressure on Lou on the defensive end with your offense and use your height, use your athleticism. But those two guys are going to be extremely, extremely important to give them between 10 and 20 points total on any given night.
And it's not just, like you said, it's not just what they do in terms of scoring. It's going to be them being young, physical defenders playing good team defense on the other end as well. That's a great point.
Sure.
All these guys have grown up pretty much, certainly the players from the United States have grown up playing summer ball, travel ball, the spring circuit.
Yeah. And
I've heard a lot of guys talk about, well, this is like AAU. And like, I'm saying to myself, yes, that sounds good in theory, but this is not AAU. This is the best players in the world on a 40 square mile campus, locked in with each other. Both sides. We've never seen this before where you get everybody in one place. Is then the environment going to be the biggest adjustment, you think, for the players? Not necessarily getting up and down the court playing basketball. I mean, that's normal, but just the environment, everybody being in this strange place where you're seeing each other after games at the hotel. I mean, I can't imagine what that must be like for a player after all these years of doing it totally different in the NBA.
Here's the biggest thing, right? It's the discipline. Are you going to be disciplined enough to, continue your diet, to work out every day? Things are going to get very monotonous. So right now, everyone's fishing, everyone's kind of testing things out. But can you stick to your routine when it gets mind-numbingly boring? I know one man for sure that can, and that is LeBron. And to me, he is the most dangerous guy there. He does the same thing every single day over and over and over, and he's been doing it for like 19 years, right? Whatever that is. 15. I was like, I think he played 18. Anyway, so for me, these guys, when I hear guys complain about the food or complain about this, I would use that as an advantage in my mind, thinking, does he really want to be here, right? Is he really – you're worried about the food? It was like, what? Like, who cares? It's bland chicken and some noodles. Sauce the thing up. Put some hot sauce on it. Who cares? But for me, the guy that I really like to watch is Patrick Beverley. Mm-hmm. You could tell he thinks that they can win it all because he's like, we're hunkering down here. You see how many T-shirts he brought? He didn't bring 10. He brought about 50 T-shirts. That means he's here for the long haul, right? And then you start to see guys that are here that are enjoying it, but you really don't see a lot of the videos from the main guys because those guys are super locked in. They're getting their routine right. They're understanding where they can eat. They're finding little outlets, right? Now, Bron says, oh, I'm playing 2K. Yeah, Maine might play 2K a little bit, but that dude is watching film. He's studying. He's watching guys. I think it's going to get really testy once the playoffs come. Because if you just happen to be in the same hotel, in the Lakers or the Clippers, they're going to be chirping. They're going to be talking. And when you lose or win, you got to now go to the same hotel and sit at a bar with the team. There's going to be some security. I'm excited for all this. I think it's just like, a gigantic coliseum. And you put all these warriors in there and you're like, have at it. And just go at it. No fans, no nothing, right? So if you get dunked on, you don't hear the oohs and ahs. It's just, you're on TV being watched by tens of millions of people.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic lab experiment, if nothing else, watching how guys react, recover, respond to just whatever goes on. It's so strange to me. And you've been a part of a championship team. You understand the grind and like you said, the discipline is a great word that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. But who has the staying power? Like, who's going to be able to look up a month in, a month and a half in, and not be frazzled? The pandemic has sent all of us, nibbling through the walls of our own homes trying to figure out how to keep ourselves in. But this is more of that kind of quarantine environment.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder which teams. Is it a team like the Trailblazers with vets, guys who have been there that manage this better than other teams trying to find the leadership and kind of that direction of who's in charge and how you do it?
I think for me, and I've been on playoff teams that have lost, if you have any inkling of doubt, you go, is it worth it? Do we have a real chance of winning? So for me, think about the Grizzlies, think about the Pelicans. If they have to play, you have to think of not Zion, because he has his own pressure, Alonzo or Brandon Ingram. You got to think of player 8, 9, 10, 11. They're saying, I'm in this bubble. I'm only getting 5, 6 minutes a game. Like, what am I doing? I could be at home, right? And another thing about the discipline is they got a certain set of rules. You can't go outside the hotel area. So all of a sudden, let's say you're in the playoffs, or let's say it's a huge game, and Zion forgets for a day and goes and picks up some Postmates, right? What's he doing for 10 days?
Right.
So that's a whole nother variable of guys missing games, roster spots. And so to get back to my main point, those guys that are like, what am I doing here? I'm like the 15th guy. What is their mental going to be like if they get an opportunity to play? It's not going to be the same as somebody who's like, I'm in the playoffs, we have a chance to win, like somebody on the Blazers. They're like, listen, we have a chance to win it all, and we have a chance to upset a lot of people. So that is that motivating factor. I'm not worried about the chicken or the pasta. We're here to win, right?
You're not worried about the baked lays for breakfast and like all this.
Worried about all that. Are you kidding? Like, give me some Pringles. Listen, you should prepare. It's Amazon. That beats a trillion. What is 10 more trillion?
It's so crazy too. Like seeing the social media, Instagram, and guys talking about the food and all that sort of stuff, and I'm laughing to myself, thinking we've all had to adjust to a new normal. Everybody on planet Earth. So I mean, nobody's immune, and this is just a reminder of that. I think that the continued reminder of the sacrifice it takes to be back in the mix, playing a championship on the line. You bring up LeBron, we bring up teams like the Clippers and like these Blazers. I just can't imagine how valuable it's going to be to have veteran leadership, keeping everybody in line, making sure the temperature in the room is a certain way.
Right.
It's conducive to compete. Because as you mentioned, Dame and CJ are coming this thing locked and loaded. They know we got this much ground to make up. We got this much time to do it. Focused. I mean, just focused. Do you think that, and we're talking with Channing Frye here about the Portland Trail Blazers on the Hang Time podcast, but do you think that the focus that it's going to take to be at your best, however long it lasts for each and every team, but certainly for Portland, that is the advantage that Dame and CJ and guys like that who are immersed in that leadership process all the time, that's the benefit that you get having those guys on your roster now?
For sure. And I think you look at team chemistry, right? Yeah. If you got to be locked down, like when we won in 2016, our team was tight. Yeah. Our team would go to dinners together. Our team was doing everything together. If coach said nobody come to a gym, if one person was at the gym, everybody would get a call. So then everyone would show up, right? Even if it was to get a massage, even if it was to just eat. That's how locked in tight we are. Now, by the end of it, I was like, God, LeBron, if I had to look at your face again, Richard, if I had to look at you, I'm so sick of looking at you guys. But we won it. But like, if you don't have that type of chemistry, if you don't have that type of like camaraderie, and then you got to be compounded on a small case. It's not like you're going home. You're going to your hotel room. Your wife's not telling you how much she loves you. You're not getting a hug by your kid. You got to sit there and think, oh man, we're down 0-1. What do we do here? What do we do there? Like, is this worth it? And all that doubt comes. But at Dame and CJ, and we're forgetting Melo's been through this, Nurk has been through this. The guys that you're going to really need to rely on one of those series would be Gary Trent Jr., your Hassan Whiteside, Coach Stotts, right? Everyone knows if it's a 7-game series, your big two guys got to win you 2 games. Yeah. It happens all the time, right? And then your coach has to win you a game. And whether that's a substitution, whether that's preparation, whether that's just a speech or something, your coach got to win you a game. And then your bench has to win you a game, right? Your bench has to win you a game. Then your coach, and then your 2 big guys got to win you a game, right? And I could go to our series in 2016. Richard Jefferson started instead of Kevin Love, right? So that's the bench, won us a game. Then Kyrie and LeBron went absolutely apeshit. My man was averaging triple double, like 40, 10, and 9 or something crazy. And then T. Lue won us a game by keeping Richard in the starting lineup and bringing Kevin off the bench. And he played Mo Williams and Dante Jones when they hadn't played in almost any other series.
Right.
And they got us huge possessions and huge shots.
Yeah.
So for the Trailblazers, it's going to be interesting to see who off their bench is going to win them a game when it counts.
Yeah, no question about it. So much to chew on with the Blazers, obviously, and all these teams in the bubble. When we come back from the break, we're going to take a look at some of the other stuff because there's a lot going on off the court, social justice. We know what's going on, but there's also some fun to be had in Orlando. There's a lot, player lounges, video games, all that good stuff. So we get some keys to the Magic Kingdom for the Portland Trailblazers when we come back from the break. Back here on the Hang Time Podcast, talking Portland Trailblazers with Channing Frye. And Channing, anytime you show up to a Disney property, the first thing that happens is they take the parents' money and take all of it and put it in the vault. This time, for the Portland Trailblazers, there's more than just basketball going on. These guys have to exist in this bubble 24/7 until it's over. So let's get some keys to the Magic Kingdom for the Portland Trailblazers here. If there's one thing that they needed to leave at home for this trip to Orlando in terms of a regular season tendency, what was it?
To me, it was just always, when is Nurk coming back? When is Zach coming back? That was all everybody talked about. They were like, is Hassan Whiteside the guy for us? There were so many doubts when it came to especially Hassan and defensively. But I think he's proven he can do what he can do. He is what he is, and he does it at a very high rate. So now you have Nurk and him. So start being a little bit more positive with him. It's just sometimes it looks like he's not trying, but he's just so big. He's like a gigantic aircraft carrier out there. And, as fast as this game is, you're like, he's not getting out of threes or he's not doing this. But then he's, I think, second or third in shot blocks. And I think he's fourth or fifth in rebounds. So he is super efficient at what he does. So now this is your team. There's no trades. There's no pickups. This is your team. This is who you're going to battle with. So for them, they need to make sure that they're putting their egos to the side, especially those two big guys, and figuring out what is best each game for them to go win.
There's a lot going on in the social justice, space for all these guys down there. And CJ McCollum's going to have education reform on the back of his jersey as a slogan. Dame has been very vocal in his fight for social justice on social media and always speaking out. How do they use this platform in Orlando? How do they make sure to balance that and taking care of business in this environment?
I think, first of all, I give them a standing ovation for what they've done in this community. Obviously I live in Portland and I've seen them. They were first on the front lines marching, being leaders. Damian Lillard, and not to say that CJ isn't, but Damian Lillard is on another level. He is becoming a superstar, right, in this league, becoming famous not only for basketball, but for speaking out and being that guy that's representing the smaller cities, representing, quote unquote, the little guy. And I think as a leader, him stepping out in front of everything, marching, being as vocal as he is, sets the tone for his teammates so that they can speak out, so that they can express themselves and speaking their own truths. For me, looking at Dame and CJ as leaders, you'd be hard-pressed to find two better, right? For me. Yeah. I think they encourage their players, their teammates, to not only be themselves, both on and off the court, but I think that they're going to take advantage of this time because they understand and know that at no point in this world's history will there be more cameras on the NBA than right now. So if you have something to say, make sure you write it out, get your punctuation right, say it. Because everybody's ears are going to be on you. They're going to be watching you. We have nothing else to do.
Right.
So use this time to say whatever is your truth and make sure that it is going to benefit not only you, but your community, your people, and America in the future.
Well, that's a great point. What an opportunity. I know there was some talk, guys were talking about not wanting to participate because of it, all that different stuff. But you're right. The platform will never be more magnified than it will be when we get the action cranked up. You're right. From a basketball point, Beauty and the Beast matchup for Portland in terms of the playoff, and we've mentioned that they've got some ground to make up to get into that playoff mix. But if they were to do it, if they get down there and handle the business, what's the Beauty matchup for Portland in terms of the team they would face in the postseason portion of what's going to go on in Orlando?
This is going to sound wild. I think it's the Lakers.
Wow.
I don't think it's the Clippers. I think the Clippers are too deep. I think they're defensively, they match up with them guard-wise. I think the Clippers have too many wings that are going to be problems between Kawhi and Paul George. And defensively, I don't know who's going to guard Terrell and Lou Williams coming off the bench. Who's going to guard Morris, right? That was a huge pickup.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Lakers, obviously, and this is, I'm just going to sound wild, but LeBron, to make him a scorer is your best bet.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to have to double team the crap out of AD whenever you get a chance. And you're just going to pray that Danny Green and JR aren't hot. But I just don't think offensively they have as much power as people think they do. You're relying a lot on Dion Waiters, who hasn't played all year, and JR, who hasn't played all year, to pick up the slack coming off the bench, right? And defensively, Kuzma isn't the best, but how is he going to be in a slow-down, grinded-out playoff game? We haven't known, and that just doesn't seem to be his style right now in his career.
No, that's a great point. I'm curious, too, without Avery Bradley, without Rondo, that does change the dynamic for the Lakers if they were to deal with a team like this.
Yeah, because, Danny Green is a very, very, very good defender. But Danny Green can't guard C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard for all 40 minutes that they're going to play and contribute offensively. And then you look at Portland's system, Danny Green is a big guard. He's good, but he's going to get hit with so many screens, right? CJ and Dame run the most of anyone in the NBA, I think, other than James Harden, right?
Right.
So you need bodies. What bodies are you putting on both of those guys? They're used to playing that way. You don't have two or three guys that can keep up and put pressure on them like that. And defensively, you could put Dame on Danny Green. He's just going to stand in the corner, right? He's not a one-on-one guy like that. So, I think that matchup to me would be favorable. Obviously, the Lakers are a really, really, really good team. But if I'm looking person to person, I feel like I have an advantage in front of Trailblazers.
If you get the genie in the bottle, he gives 3 wishes for the Blazers in Orlando. What are the 3 things that you have to have on that wish list?
Woo. Number 1, stay healthy in the regular season, right? You got to stay healthy. Number 2, we need Melo to go ahead and take a 5-hour energy and get ready to play, right? We need Melo. We need 2009 Melo, right? 2010 Melo.
Right.
Just give me 10 minutes of that, because he could be absolutely dangerous. He's shown it this year. And number 3, we're going to need the bench to the young guys to embrace this opportunity and be bigger than themselves.
If there's a Mr. Incredible on this Trailblazers roster, the guy who ends up being that X factor game changer that we always end up seeing in a playoff, somebody always pops when nobody expects it. Who's that guy for Portland?
I'll be honest, I think it's C.J. McCollum. And this is why. I think there's going to be so much pressure to stop Damian Lillard, right? That C.J. is going to have free reign to go one-on-one. And I think he's seen this enough. I think the Blazers have seen this enough where they've added better scoring on the outside. Because remember, like I said last year, Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Amino were really just defenders, and they weren't shooting. I think they were 0 for 4 total last year. I think it was Game 6 versus the Warriors. So now you have Melo who can shoot threes. Now you have Simons who can shoot threes. Now you have big-time rollers going to the hoop. Zach Collins can make an outside shot. So they've added depth. They've added height. They've added physicality, and they've added a year of veteranship, right, of experience. So I'm going to say C.J. McCollum is going to average maybe 20. I'm going to say he's going to mess around because you can't put your best defender on him. And he's one of the most underrated one-on-one players in the NBA.
Yeah, and he's going to be in attack mode. You know that. So, all this time off, a guy like that's going to come back ready to fire.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be good. Rested and good.
Yeah. All right, now let's have a little fun here with this Blazers team. Who's most likely to take ping pong too seriously in the players' lounge off this Blazers team?
Hassan Whiteside. He just seems like a competitive dude. I follow him online, and he's always lifting all these weights and showing everybody what he can't do, shooting threes and stuff like that. So it just seems like that's his persona, just to kind of take things a little too seriously.
I know all these guys swear they're the best dressed man in the NBA, but who keeps the fashion game on point in Orlando? We're talking quarantine dressing now. You got to show up with everything locked and ready.
I'm going to say Melo. I just think I like Melo's style, right? Pretty classy, GQ style, nothing too crazy, timeless.
Yeah, he does have that kind of suave.
But he also throw on like a Jordan hoodie, right?
Hoodie Melo might show up out of nowhere. Right. We don't know.
Well, listen, we need like that hoodie Melo. We don't need like season hoodie Melo. What's crazy is it's scorching hot in Orlando. I don't know what they're going to be wearing other than shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming James Harden is coming with his summertime outfits.
Oh Lord,
the walking silk pajamas, the silk man suits. But that's for another podcast.
Silk rompers.
Who's most likely to sneak candy into one of the movie screenings?
Oh, I would have said Melo, but he's looking skinny, so he might just be on the avocado and pear. Shout out to the pears. I'm gonna say Nurkic. I'm gonna say Big Nurk. He's quiet. He's a cool cat, but I think low key probably he looks like he's a Swedish fish dude.
I was thinking Mike and Ike's that you get at the dollar store instead of buying the $10 box of movies, but that's another conversation.
Oh man, yeah, my mom's bag used to be jangling and shaking, and they're like, "Ma'am, no candy." We're like, "Oh no, this was just in there. My fault."
Who of this Blazers bunch shows up with his golf clubs? I mean, there's a lot of room in the bubble for recreation. Who's got the golf clubs ready?
I'm going to say Terry Stotts. I'm going to say the coach. Coach for sure, right? Dame's in his little mini studio in his room. Hassan Whiteside's playing 2K. CJ's tasting wine. He got a wine coming out. Zach Collins probably shouldn't be swinging a golf club. He just got off shoulder surgery. Big Nurk, I think he's just too big to have golf clubs in general. So
right.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I lived in Orlando for a year and a half. When I tell you, it's a different type of. It's sauna hot. If you're playing golf, it is not. It's not cool, man. Like it ain't it. That ain't it.
It's gonna be dead of summer too. I'm gonna be interested to see who survives that Orlando heat. Everybody's used to it.
A1.
All right, finally, and this is that magical ending for Portland in this scenario in the bubble. What would be the fairy tale ending? How do the Portland Trailblazers make it to the NBA Finals? What has to happen for them to upset the order of things and get to the finals?
First of all, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna put this on lock now. They are gonna make the playoffs.
Okay, I'm putting that down.
I just don't think the Grizzlies have enough offensive power, right? And as such a young team, they had so much momentum at the end of that season that stopping it and starting it, you're now not facing the same teams. So all that fake momentum they had is completely gone. And you're asking these young guys who have not really played a lot in the league to take 4 months off. This is longer than a regular season. So for me, back to the Blazers, number one, they upset the Lakers. Biggest thing ever. Then, shocker.
Yeah, they shocked the world with that.
They play, who would they play in the second round? They play the Rockets in the second round. And the Rockets go cold. And then thirdly, Hassan Whiteside and Nurk are just too much physically for the Clippers. And every time they double team Dame and CJ, those guys are just finishing at the rim and because the Clippers are deep, but they are very they're like 6'9" to 6'7", right? So like the 3-4 position. But at center, they have big Zubac, that's my guy, and Harrell. So the physicality there, I think I have to give it to the Blazers. So that's my thing. And then they go to the NBA Finals versus the Milwaukee Bucks, and they would lose that.
Don't go too far.
No, I can't go too far. We got no answer for that boy. Listen, Giannis is a different beast.
Doubt. Man, Channing Frye, it's been enjoyable talking to you, man, about the Blazers and about the bubble. Looking forward to all the content that I know you'll be providing. Certainly seeing you on NBA TV and everywhere else, man. Thank you so much for the time, and we'll see you down the road.
Appreciate you. Yeah.
We are counting down to the start of this Orlando bubble experience for all 22 teams. Talking the Portland Trailblazers today with our guest, Channing Frye. Appreciate him. And check us out next time here on the Hang Time Podcast.